folks, today we have some very exciting information regarding a new IP from one of the directors of the original Splatoon, as well as Splatoon 2 and Octo expansion. It looks like he might be cooking up something pretty special for the Switch, as well as the Switch 2, thanks to a new patent that was filed that has his name on it. We also have a secondary topic today claiming that Metroid Prime 4 Beyond will blow everything else out of the water at the Switch 2 Direct on April 2nd, which I have some thoughts on. So that's what we're talking about today. Of course, if you are new here and you enjoy Nintendo Switch 2 topics, discussion, news, theories, all that fun stuff, I would appreciate you subscribing. Let's get into it. Okay, so first up, let's talk about this new IP potentially coming to Switch and Switch 2. So if you missed it somehow, back in October, Nintendo did a weird online playtest, and it was limited to, I think, like 5,000 people. I was lucky enough to get in. I made videos on it at the time. It was a very weird experimental game that I know some people were divided on whether or not it would actually be a new game, like a new IP, or whether it was just being used for testing for other future Nintendo games and maybe testing online infrastructure. It was massively multiplayer. It was a big multiplayer hub game, but then you go into these little zones and you like build blocks, and it's a very, very weird game. I made videos on it back then, and we haven't heard anything about it since. It was kind of just hush-hush. If you posted videos with gameplay, you got taken down, and it's been pretty quiet since then. I was under the assumption back when it was originally coming out and it got data mined that it was being made by EPD4. And it seems like maybe the bulk of the workforce on this new project is EPD4. EPD4, if you don't know, are the developers of Switch Sports, 1-2-Switch, Game Builder Garage, the wacky stuff Nintendo likes to make. But it sounds like the director of this game might actually be the director of Splatoon 1, as well as Splatoon 2 and Octo expansion. Yusuke Amano is a name I've been following for a while now, as he is one of the younger creators at Nintendo, who seems to actually be getting a little bit of leeway and creative control of projects. Just looking at his Moby Games page here, he did planning on a new Super Mario Bros. Wii, he was a coordinator on Star Fox 64 3D, and then his big break was New Super Mario Bros. 2. But then from there, he did Splatoon, he was the director of that, he was one of the directors of Splatoon 2, as well as one of the directors of Splatoon 2 Octo expansion. Now, since then, he hasn't done too much. He was an original game supervisor for Smash Ultimates, a role that I imagine didn't take too much work time, as well as a planning supervisor for New Horizons. He hasn't been credited for anything since, and when we're talking about one of the directors, one of the creative forces behind Splatoon, I'm very excited to see what he cooks up next. Which brings us to this new patent that was discovered, which pretty explicitly describes what that online playtest was, and the inventors credited here are Tsubasa Sakaguchi, we'll talk more about him in just a second, Yusuke Amano, who we were just talking about, Masaki Wada, and Shinya Yano. We'll talk about all these people in just a second, but Yusuke Amano is the one that really caught my eye because we've been wondering what he's been up to since Splatoon 2 Octo expansion, really, and I'm just so excited at the prospect of a new Nintendo IP, because we don't get new Nintendo IP. We got a couple weird eShop games on the Switch. We got Ring Fit Adventure. That was undoubtedly a big one. But when you ask most people what Nintendo new IP have come out in recent years, even though it's almost a decade old, you would say Splatoon, which Yusuke Amano was a director on, as well as ARMS. ARMS is the other big new IP they've done, but even then that was 8 years ago almost, which that feels crazy to say. But looking more at this patent here, if you have not seen footage, you can find it if you scour the internet. I think Blue Sky, actually, if you go on there. Nintendo never got to that. This is pretty clearly showing what this new online playtest game is. Reading here, it says, a player's character action is controlled based on a user's inputs. A first object associated with the player character is arranged at a position in a virtual space based on the user's input with reference to a position of the player character. This is all patent speak. It's all very descriptive. But basically, this image is showing that you can break blocks in the game, which is a huge component of it. It has a lot of crafting elements, not unlike a Minecraft where you have all these blocks. You can go to different nodes or planets and mine different types of blocks for resources, and then you can place the blocks and use them to build up, and the entire goal is to build up and light up all these different areas. It's been a while since I played it, so the exact details are a little fuzzy here. I do have a bunch of footage recorded. I wish I could post it and let you all see, but Nintendo would take the video down. Definitely check out this patent in the description down below. You can check out all these different little diagrams they made. This one, it looks like it damages you, makes your health go down if you hit it. There were some blocks in the game where if you hit it, an enemy would spawn out. Maybe that's what that's alluding to, but it's all very, very detailed stuff, and it's a huge patent here with a ton of information that's honestly it's kind of confusing to read because it's all very technical and just pages and pages and pages of text. This is insane. But yeah, the most important part of this is the names on here. Like I mentioned earlier, I was under the assumption, I believe there was something in the data mine for this demo back when it came out that suggested it was being done by EPD4. And EPD4 usually has a game every single year. They are one of the few internal Nintendo teams that actually does make new IP pretty often, all things considered. You know, 1-2-Switch is technically a franchise. Game Builder Garage didn't get a sequel, but they were also in charge of Labo. So I was just kind of under the impression, based on what I had played of the game, like, okay, this is a bigger new thing from them testing out something, some sort of new game. But since it does look like Yusuke Amano is involved, that means it is joint developed by EPD5, or he has maybe shifted to EPD4. And that's just so exciting because EPD5, once again, they do Animal Crossing, which is huge, but they also do Splatoon. Those are like the two franchises that EPD5 handles, and now we might be getting something a little different thrown into the mix as a new IP, kind of introducing the Switch 2 generation, but also maybe coming to Switch 1 because, I mean, I played it on my Switch. There were definitely frame drops. It definitely was a little weird, but it did play on Switch. So this is a game that I feel like would likely come to both consoles. Maybe just on Switch 2, maybe it was very early. There were some aspects of the game that felt unpolished, but there were other aspects that felt extremely polished. They have these very cute caveman designs. My girlfriend Olivia actually drew up some here so you can kind of get an idea of what the player characters look like. There is a ton of tracks in the game, like music tracks that were data mined. I think there was over like 50, like a lot of really unique music, and it all sounded amazing. There were references to microtransactions in the game, but you couldn't actually buy them. There was a shop where you could go and it would have like text referring to taking you to the eShop to look at something. I guess it could have maybe been free, but I doubt it. So to me, whatever this is, based on the fact that they introduced it as a Switch Online playtest, I think it'll likely be a either free-to-play game or a game that is included as a benefit of Switch Online, be that the base $20 tier or maybe the $50 expansion pack tier. I made a video the other day going over GameCube NSO and whether or not that will actually make sense on Switch 2, whether or not they'll do that, and whether or not they might actually introduce a third tier. And when I saw this and I was thinking about that, I was like, dang, maybe this new game would be exclusive to an even more expensive tier of Switch Online. But honestly, they're going to want as many people on this as possible. The entire goal of the game is to light up these different nodes, and there's like thousands of them. So you're going to want a lot of people playing it. If I had to guess, I would say this will maybe be a part of the $20 tier, but maybe they'll also charge for it. But based on the fact that there's microtransactions, or seemingly there's plans for microtransactions, I don't think they would make you pay for it because Nintendo hasn't really done microtransactions like that in a console game, but maybe this is where that changes. I really hope not. And then, yeah, just reading this post from Astro Gamer on the Gaming Leaks and Rumors subreddit. They say here the patent lists Yusuke Amano, Tsubasa Sakaguchi, Masaki Wada, and Shinya Yano as the inventors. The first two directed the first Splatoon, but Sakaguchi went on to work on Labo. And, you know, I was focusing more on Yusuke Amano, but looking at Tsubasa Sakaguchi's Nintendo fandom wiki page here, it didn't list this on Moby Games, but it looks like his last credited project was Nintendo Labo, so something technically a little bit more recent, assuming he worked on the VR kit, which came out in 2019. But really, for both Yusuke Amano and Tsubasa Sakaguchi, it's been a long time since we've seen something from them. So if they were the directors of Splatoon back in 2015, they had a couple of different little projects in between, Amano doing Splatoon 2, Sakaguchi doing Labo, but now they're coming back together for this new IP, weird online MMO, Minecraft, Roblox, weirdo game where you could have user-generated 3D models and stuff. It's a crazy project. I'll be curious to see just what it looks like as an actual release and not this weird, mysterious playtest thing. So yeah, if we're actually getting a new IP from these two, that is just so exciting. And then yeah, just going back to the Reddit thread here to just really make sure we get all the names out there. Masaki Wada and Shinya Yano, they were programmers on a Ring Fit Adventure, which also further kind of indicates, in my opinion, that it is mostly being developed by EPD4. I think that's where the bulk of that workforce is. But then you have the directors of the original Splatoon on here as well, which is just really exciting. I've been following Yusuke Amano specifically ever since he did not direct Splatoon 3. I guess I should have also been following Tsubasa Sakaguchi a little bit closer because they've been both kind of MIA for the majority of the Switch generation, and I would say Splatoon is arguably the most important thing to come out of Nintendo in the past 20 years, other than the Switch itself, I guess. So for them to be working on a new IP seemingly, and it's this really exciting, ambitious MMO PlayStation Home VR chat type of interactive social game, maybe it won't hit for a lot of people. Maybe it'll hit really hard. I mean, you look at like Roblox or Minecraft, and these games are absolutely massive. Maybe Nintendo wants a piece of that pie a little bit. I really liked what I played of the playtest back in October. I can see why some people would be put off by it, and it's, once again, hard to describe without footage. So you have this little caveman guy, and they have tails. And, well, first of all, there's like web swinging like in a Spider-Man game, and it actually like works really well. There's like cool physics with how your body interacts with the swinging in the game. You can use your tail to like give thumbs up to other players and like shake their hands with your tail. It's a very zen game, and because of that, I can see why a lot of people wouldn't be into it. You're in this like dark void with other players building your little nodes up, and it can be very lonely. But then when you go back to the hub and there's just like literally hundreds of players at a time, I think it's 100, at least in the demo, it becomes like so social. It's very cool. They had this whole in-game quiz where you have to pass it to get your UGC license, so your user-generated content license, and you can make 3D models and cosmetics and stuff, like actual like 3D modeling with like your XYZ axes and everything, unlike anything I've ever seen in a Nintendo game. It's all very strange, and if this is one of the big new IPs for Switch 2, I'll be very excited to see it. I mentioned it in yesterday's video where I tried to predict the entirety of Nintendo's 2025 lineup, and I didn't actually slot it anywhere because honestly, I just have no idea where a game like this fits in. Could it be a launch title for the Switch 2? It feels more like something that should be baked into Switch Online, something that all users who are subscribed to it have, and maybe it is treated as like a PlayStation Home kind of interactive social hub or something like that. So maybe it's a Switch 2 launch title, maybe it's still on Switch 1 because you'd want to have, once again, as many players as possible, and considering I played it on Switch 1, I feel like that would suggest it's going to be a Switch 1 game as well, but that's fine. I mean, you know, it'll run a lot better on Switch 2. There were definitely some frame drops in the demo I played. Maybe this is something they release in September. Maybe there's a September Direct and they shadow drop this. Usually when we get that September Direct, or if there's not a September Direct, you know, last October, they did a bunch of stuff to get you to resubscribe to Switch Online, because that's usually when the annual subscription would run out for people that subscribed back in 2017 or 2018 when they first launched the service. They usually like to have like one big draw around that anniversary time. Maybe this year it would be this new IP from this new team. I'm not really sure what this would be called, if it would have a retail presence, like a package, $70 free. I'm not really sure, but it's exciting, and it's rare that we get an ambitious new IP from Nintendo. Will this be more along the lines of Splatoon, or will it kind of just fall to the wayside like Game Builder Garage? I guess we'll have to wait and see, but either way, just seeing them try new stuff is really cool. And you know what? This is completely unrelated, but I am willing to put all my money on it. This little caveman dude, if this game does well, is gonna be in the next Smash Bros. I 100% would be shocked if this little dude with his cool web swinging and tail gimmick is not a playable character in whatever Sakurai's working on right now. It's probably already in the you know, planning documents that this little dude is going to be playable. I would be shocked if that does not happen. Now, there was something else I wanted to discuss in this video. I didn't want to do a whole dedicated video on it. I didn't think it was that important, but I saw a lot of people talking about this, and it comes from this Twitter user Kiwi Talks, who apparently has done a ton of interviews with Retro Studios employees. They tweeted out the other day that in less than a month in the Switch 2 Direct, you'll see that Nintendo and Retro were keeping their cards close to their chest with Metroid Prime 4 Beyond for this exact moment. The true unveiling will blow everything else in the Direct out of the water. And that got a lot of people talking. There is this post on Twisted Voxel where they explain a little bit more here. They say, as per him, the game's true unveiling at the upcoming presentation will, quote, blow everything else out of the water, while Riley cautioned that Nintendo is constantly tweaking its Direct presentations right down to the last minute. As of now, he is 90% certain that Metroid Prime 4 Beyond will make an appearance. Going by his choice of words, it seems that the game will be showcased in a major way. Now, before we actually discuss whether or not Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is going to blow everything else in the Direct out of the water, I will say it's a little funny. I saw this tweet being like, rumor Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is going to be at the Switch 2 Direct. Dog, it's March 16, 2025. We know the game's coming out this year. There is no other reason that we haven't seen it than it being at the Switch 2 Direct. I don't think you need a rumor to say, yeah, it's going to be there. I just thought that was a little silly. I quote tweeted, it's like, rumor, Mario Kart's going to be there. It's crazy. But yeah, Kiwi Talks has done a bunch of interviews with Retro Studios employees, so the idea is that she has heard something about the game or knows something about the game that suggests to him that it will blow everything else out of the water, but that's really subjective. Is he just a huge Metroid Prime fan? Has he been waiting for this for, 2 decades since Prime 3? Or is there actually more to it, and this game is gonna blow our socks off? I find that hard to believe, and this is coming from someone who admittedly likes 2D Metroid more than 3D Metroid Prime, but this is a Switch 1 game, and while Mario Kart, maybe we're talking graphically here, Mario Kart 9 didn't look like graphically that impressive. It seems like they're focusing more on expanding player counts and making bigger tracks with the extra power of the Switch 2. In my opinion, and this is going to be a hot take, if Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is the most impressive game that we see on April 2nd, that's an L. This game was announced 7 years ago. It's a game that will be running on the current Nintendo Switch hardware from 2017. If that's the most impressive thing, I'm going to be honest, that's an L. We're taking an L on this one. I have no doubt that Retro Studios is cooking up an absolute banger. It's their first game in over a decade. Like, I really think that Retro Studios is going to deliver a Game of the Year contender. Maybe not better than all the other Metroid Prime games, but I mean, maybe. I really think they have cooked this game to perfection. I do think it'll be there. I do think there will be some enhancements over the Switch 1 version. I'm not sure if I expect, like, fully ray traced lighting and all the, bells and whistles you would hope for. That feels a little unlike what Nintendo has done in the past, but maybe. I just feel like when you're using a Switch 1 game as a base, it's going to be hard to really have a Switch 2 version of that Switch 1 game blow us away, I look at a game like Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart on PS5 and how impressive that game is because of the load times. Visually, it's very beautiful, but it's really those load times when you're doing the fast sections where you're going through worlds at an extreme speed. Honestly, even Split Fiction does a little bit of this. That is something that is only possible on PS5 or a PC with a very good SSD. I don't know if there's really anything that they could do with Metroid Prime 4, if it's running on Switch 1, that would blow me away to that extent, since it is going to be a port, if that makes sense. So, while I have high expectations for the game, I think it's going to be incredible. I think it will be one of the better looking games on the Switch 2, just based on what we saw. I mean, it's already one of the best looking Switch 1 games, if not the best looking Switch 1 games based on that trailer. If that's the most impressive thing, I will be a tad disappointed. I'm not going to lie, just because, I don't know, it's a game we know about. We've seen a little bit of it. I don't know. I'm excited to see more, but we're talking about 3D Mario being announced here. We're talking about a deep dive on a new Mario Kart. We're talking about the potential of new Zelda games and Smash Bros. And Splatoon and Animal Crossing, and who knows what else, Monolith Soft, new IP. If the most exciting thing in that direct is a game that was announced in the 2017 E3 Nintendo Spotlight, that's a little underwhelming in my opinion, but honestly, I don't think this will be the case, and either way, like I said, maybe this is just, it's subjective. Maybe this will be, for some people, maybe this will be the most impressive game that is shown, but for me, it'll be whatever Scrimblow Bimblow game EPD4 is cooking up, you know what I'm saying? If it's this weird Connects MMO free-to-play NSO game that I played back in October, maybe that'll be the other game for me. So we'll have to wait and see. Let me know what you think in the comments down below of Metroid Prime 4 potentially being the showpiece game at this Nintendo Direct, but also, what do you think of this new IP from Yusuke Amano as well as Tsubasa Sakaguchi, the directors of the original Splatoon? Very exciting stuff. As always, subscribe here for more Nintendo Switch 2 content. Follow me on Twitter at BotoxGames. Check out my other channel at It's Amiibo, and click on these 2 videos here to go watch something else. Until next time, folks. Peace.